So this was the week where the state of Montana passed a bill to bar gender-affirming care for anyone under the age of 18. And during a let's know and first. Let's just look at this bill and let's look at who signed this bill. So this bill is one of many that have been passed across the country. So Montana, not unique here. Here, this is according to Human Rights Campaign, a list of all of these, 20 odd states that have made an effort to ban gender affirming care for trans youth. So they're not alone, and they're going to go for more. Looks like that Montana is also trying to bar like the other box in terms of sex. So sex is just two things, male, female, and that students can't identify as anything other than he or she. They can't change their pronouns. That's all coming later. But let's talk about who signed this bill. And then we'll talk about what happened inside the legislature. But Governor Greg Gianforte signed that bill on Friday. That had been condemned before as unconscionable by Zooey Zephyr, the first openly transgender lawmaker. But Gianforte himself, I don't know if you guys know this about him, or John, you knew this. He body slammed a Guardian reporter in 2017. That's sort of his claim to fame. But interestingly, for this story, he has a non-binary son, David Gianforte. So I guess they identify as they. I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm misgendering. So. But yeah, here's David. He says, "For my own sake, I've chosen to focus primarily on transgender rights as that would significantly directly affect a number of my friends." Referring to the proposal to restrict transition healthcare for kids and separate legislation to expressly define sex as binary in Montana code and banning drag performances from public spaces, David added, "I would like to make the argument that these bills are immoral, unjust, and frankly, a violation of human rights." And once again, David, my bad for misgendering, but so that's his son, John, and he's going ahead and going like, "Nope, this is what we're doing."
So in this case, would we give Gianforte extra credit? Because normally what Republicans do is they deny people basic human dignity, let alone actual legal recognition, until there's a direct member of their family. And that's when they remember, oh, we're supposed to be creatures with some sort of empathy or compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And then that can make them seem a little bit like hypocrites. So he's decided to just avoid that and just tell even his own immediate family to F off.
Yeah.
Like he's not going to extend any empathy to them too. I guess he's purer in the end. I mean, that, look, I'm in the process of having a kid. Don't have one yet. But I have to imagine that, like, they should be able to get through to me. And by the way, like, Gianforte, like every Republican in the country, didn't care about this one electron's worth 3 years ago.
Nope.
They did not care. They didn't think about it because it wasn't an actual problem that needed to be fixed. All of this is like, it's just contingent. It's convenient. It's nice right now for them to be focusing on this. It's a way to get their base ginned up, distracted from other issues. That's it. And maybe this helps him pursue long-term goals. I don't know exactly what those would be. Maybe he thinks he's going to join the Senate or something. And that is what he is weighing against the acceptance of his heirs, his offspring.
Mm-hmm.
Man, what a heartless POS. Although we knew that because when we first found out about him, it was from him violently assaulting a member of the press. So I guess we can't be too surprised.
No, exactly. I mean, that's quite a legacy. It's like, oh yeah, he's a POS through and through. And this is what he's doing to his own kid. So great. And you're right about being sort of, being like pure. And the fact that it's all a giant distraction. You know, when Montanans are like getting their SNAP benefits ripped away from them, and they can't make ends meet on full-time work, and they are getting evicted from their homes, I'm just, I'm sure they'll be happy that at least one child out of however many hundreds was not able to live their true lives as their true gender preference.
Yeah.
That must feel good when you what? But anyway, it obviously this is again that red meat for whatever base, and I don't know if it actually works politically, but what really happened, and the reason this is not going to stick, is because people like David are voting for people like Zooey. And Zooey Zephyr is the first transgender legislator in Montana. And during a debate around this bill, she told her colleagues that if they support this measure, they're going to have, quote, blood on their hands. And then she was censured. And the latest update is that she is filing a lawsuit with the ACLU over her removal from the House floor. And she's very much tried. This is her the day after she was censured and expelled. She spent the first day of her exile last week battling to use a bench in the State House hallway. She you can see her sort of with her computer and her coffee. Her key card to access Capitol entrances, bathrooms, and party workspaces was deactivated, according to the lawsuit. And this is according to the ACLU. Every minute matters. Without Zephyr having her full rights and privileges restored, her 11,000 constituents are voiceless when it comes to a budget bill that impacts every corner of Montana. And she represents the college town of Missoula, and it's House District 100. And just so you get a sense of the support she has, here she was speaking. Just listen to the crowd days after she was censured. A big trans flag flying. So they love her. They love her. And just finally, why it matters is the following, right? And Zooey puts it so perfectly in this interview. Take a look.
And to me, what you're seeing is when marginalized communities stand up and hold people accountable to the real harm that legislation does, it's not enough for the right to have the votes to pass it. They want silence. They don't want to be held accountable. They want to use whatever tools are at their disposal to mandate that silence.
Yeah. So they had the votes already to pass this. She just said her piece, John. There was no reason, like they were going to get their way anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they were going to get their legislative way, their full way. I think the representative touched on it right there. And by the way, I'm going to be speaking with Representative Zephyr tomorrow on the damage report.
Amazing.
We had a scheduling conflict that stopped us from talking last Friday. They had their way legislatively, but that's not the only way that they want to have their way. They want to silence people in general, yes, but how great for them that they get to silence an actual trans lawmaker. This bill is about pushing the community at least into the shadows, if not off the edge of a cliff. And so getting to do it to an individual as well, how nice is that for them? It's about enforcing hierarchies. They're doing that by asserting silence. And they have convinced their base to hate every trans person. Zooey Zephyr is a great representation. You're supposed to hate her. And when you hate her, how much delight will you get from us silencing her? She's a bad person. We're going to hurt her. That's what they have been trained to enjoy. That's the only thing they've been trained to expect out of their elected representatives, is pain to the people they've been trained to hate so much that they don't realize how much they're being robbed by the status quo that the Republicans universally support.
And yet, John, free speech. What about the freedom of free speech?
And well, and they're against cancel culture too.
Oh,
none
yeah,
of this meant anything. Like, honestly, like I tried to fight back for years as cancel culture, like the term cancel culture became a thing that was talked about, and tried to remind everyone this is just the exact same thing that we have every couple of years. They come up with a new term that just means you get to say racist, homophobic, misogynistic, Islamophobic things, and you can't have a problem with it. But if you do something I don't like, I'm going to shut you down. That's all it was. It meant nothing. Now they're doing the boycotts against everything. They're shooting up bottles with AR-15s, and they're literally expelling lawmakers for being uncouth.
Yep, absolutely.
Let alone book bannings and all that.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like a last gasp. I want the optimist in me says all of this is just a last gasp, right? It's like Republicans know they're losing. They've tried to gerrymander everything. They've tried to suppress votes. They're going to continue doing that. But all of the peeling back of the layers of progress is like they think this is maybe what their voters want when it absolutely is not. And they have nothing else to run on. And they need to distract us from actual issues. And they don't want to actually deliver for for their constituents, as we've talked about in terms of basic ass things like gun control, climate preparedness, a minimum wage raise.
Yeah.
So like it feels desperate. And I think that it is desperate. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/bitchuation room. Do it.